The sound of knocking on your door late at night can mean many things. But that particular knock on that cold winter evening changed my entire life forever. It was December in a small town in Vermont. The kind of night where the sun goes down before dinner time, and the cold wind makes the windows rattle. My little house sat at the edge of town, with warm yellow lights shining through the windows while everything outside looked dark and frozen. I was completely alone that night. My daughter away at college studying to become a teacher, and the house felt too big with just me inside. I'm 52 years old, and you'd think I would be used to being by myself by now. But some nights just feel extra long and lonely. I was sitting in my favorite chair with a cup of hot chocolate getting cold in my hands when someone knocked on the door. It wasn't a scared knock or an angry knock. It was steady and patient, like the person outside knew I would eventually answer. My heart started beating faster. When people show up late at night without calling first, it usually means something bad has happened. I put down my cup and walked to the front door. The wooden floor felt cold under my socks. When I opened the door, I saw David standing there. He was my daughter's best friend from their high school days. He was 25 years old now, taller and stronger looking than I remembered. But his face still had that worried look I recognized from when he was a teenager. The porch light showed his face clearly. His brown hair was wet and messy. His eyes looked wide and scared, like he was hoping for help but afraid to ask. He was holding onto an old backpack like it was the only thing keeping him standing up. "Mrs. Patterson," he said so quietly I could barely hear him. "I'm really sorry it's so late. Can I please come inside?" A million questions filled my head. Why was he here? What was wrong? But instead of asking questions, I just stepped back and opened the door wider. "Yes, David, please come in," I said. My voice sounded calm, even though I didn't feel calm inside. The warm air from the living room wrapped around us as I closed the door. He stood in the doorway looking uncomfortable, moving from one foot to the other until I pointed to the couch. "Sit down. You look freezing cold," I told him. He gave me a small smile and sat down on the couch cushions. He put his bag on the floor next to him. His jacket was wet from the cold mist outside. I went to get a towel from the closet and gave it to him. When he took it, he looked down at the floor. It reminded me of the shy boy who used to spend whole weekends at our house, playing video games with my daughter and eating everything in the kitchen. For several minutes, we just sat there quietly. The only sound was the old clock on the wall going tick, tick. I made him some hot chocolate without asking if he wanted any. That's just what moms do. When I handed him the cup, our fingers touched for a second, and I could feel his hands shaking. "I didn't know where else to go," he finally said. His voice cracked a little, like he might cry. "I've been driving around for hours. Everything just got too hard to handle. I couldn't take it anymore." I sat down in the chair across from him and leaned forward. "Do you want to tell me what's wrong?" I asked gently. He didn't answer right away. He just stared at the steam coming up from the hot chocolate. "My job got really bad. My girlfriend broke up with me. My mom still won't accept that I'm gay. I thought I was doing okay. But tonight, I just couldn't stand being alone anymore with all these sad thoughts." Something in my chest felt tight and sad. I remembered being his age and feeling like everything was going wrong at once. Feeling like nobody would understand without judging me. I reached over and put my hand on top of his. "You're not alone now," I said. He looked up at me. His face showed how tired and sad he really was. "You were always nice to me," he said quietly. I couldn't think of anybody else who might understand and not judge me. We talked for a long time, our voices soft and quiet while the wind blew outside. He told me everything. About the boss at work who made his life miserable. About the girlfriend who left suddenly, taking half his stuff and all his confidence with her. About his mom who kept telling him he should go to medical school when all David wanted was to make furniture with his hands. I listened carefully to every word. I could see his shoulders slowly relax as he talked. He leaned back into the couch and took a big, deep breath. "It's weird being here again," he said. "I feel like I'm 16 years old and everything was easier back then." I smiled a little. "Sometimes I wish things were easier too," I said. The clock chimed 12 times for midnight. The house made those creaky sounds that old houses make, like it was listening to us talk. I noticed it had gotten very quiet outside. The mist had turned into light rain. David looked at the window with raindrops running down it, then back at me. "I don't want to bother you. I can find somewhere else to sleep tonight," he said. "You're not bothering me," I said firmly but kindly. "Stay here as long as you need to. You're safe in this house." His eyes got shiny with tears for a second before he blinked them away. "Thank you so much. You have no idea how much this means to me." After that, we just sat together in the comfortable kind of quiet that feels good instead of awkward. I could feel the big difference in our ages, but I could also feel the connection between us that made age not matter. This wasn't about romance or anything like that. This was about two human beings helping each other when they both needed it. When he finally stood up to stretch, the towel fell off his shoulders. He caught it and laughed a little at himself. "I must look terrible right now," he said. "You look like somebody who needed a friend," I said softly. He smiled for real this time, and the whole room felt lighter and warmer and more comfortable. That was the first night. The night he knocked and I opened the door, not knowing how much it would change my life. I didn't understand then that it would help me learn new things about myself and about him. I didn't know it would show me how people's lives can cross paths in surprising ways. All I knew right then was that this young man who used to be my daughter's friend had come to my door looking for help. And I, a woman who thought her days of taking care of people were over, still had something important to give Dot, as he sat back down on the couch with fresh hot chocolate. And I pulled a blanket around my shoulders. I felt my loneliness start to go away. Outside, the rain got heavier and steadier. Inside, two people shared the kind of quiet that helps heal your heart better than any words could. The rain kept falling all night long, making a peaceful drumming sound on the windows and filling the rooms with a calm feeling, like the house itself was breathing slowly along with us. I sat across from David with my hands wrapped around a new cup of hot chocolate, trying to understand this new feeling in my chest. It had been so many years since I'd sat with another person like this, with no rushing, no plans, just being there and listening. David's eyes looked better now. His hair had dried, though it was still messy, and his face had more color in it. He leaned forward with his elbows on his knees and his hands pressed together. "I'm sorry for showing up without calling first," he said. "I didn't plan this. I just started driving and ended up here." "I'm glad you did," I said quietly. "Sometimes driving is the only way to stop yourself from falling apart completely." He laughed a little, but it wasn't a happy laugh. "Yeah, I kept thinking about this house and how safe I always felt here. How you never made me feel like I was in the way, even when I probably was." "You were never in the way," I told him. "You were always welcome here." He looked down at his hands. I noticed the rough spots on his palms from all the woodworking he did in his free time, even though his mom didn't approve. "I've been thinking a lot lately about actually living your life, instead of just getting through each day." "Does that make sense?" he asked. "Perfect sense," I said. "I've been asking myself the same question for longer than I want to admit." His eyes got wide with surprise when he looked at me. But you always seemed so ... I don't know. ... together. Nobody has it all figured out, I said. We're all just doing our best." The rain kept falling outside. We talked about dreams and fears and all the things that keep you awake at night worrying. David told me about wanting to quit his office job and make furniture full-time. I told him about the book I started writing years ago, but gave up on because I was too scared. "Why were you scared?" he asked. I thought about it carefully. Mostly I was afraid I wasn't good enough. Afraid of what people would think. Afraid of failing at something that really mattered to me. But not trying is failing too, isn't it? His question was gentle, not mean. "You're absolutely right," I admitted. "It is. I just didn't have the courage to see it that way before." "Maybe it's not too late," he said. "Maybe both of us can still become who we're supposed to be." His hopeful words touched something deep inside me. A part that had been asleep for years. "Maybe," I agreed quietly. As the night got later, our conversation got deeper. We talked about loneliness, and big dreams, and regrets, and hope. We discussed how hard it is when everyone expects you to be a certain way, but you want to be different. We talked about how much courage it takes to be yourself. At some point, I noticed David's eyes getting heavy and droopy. "You should get some sleep," I said. "The guest bedroom upstairs has clean sheets on the bed." "I don't want to be a bother," he said. But I could tell he was exhausted. "You're not bothering me. It's really late. It's raining hard, and you're tired. Please take the room." He only hesitated for a second before nodding. "Thank you for everything. For listening and not making me feel stupid." "You're not stupid," I said firmly. "You're human, and that's more than enough." I showed him where the bedroom was, gave him fresh towels, and said goodnight. When I came back downstairs and started cleaning up the cups, I found myself smiling for no real reason. The house felt less empty somehow, more alive. The next morning came with weak sunlight coming through the clouds. I woke up early like always and started making coffee. Doing the same thing I did every morning made me feel calm. Though I wondered if David was awake yet, if he slept well, if he was sorry he came here. He came downstairs around 8 o'clock with his hair still wet from a shower. He was wearing clean clothes from his backpack. "Good morning," he said, looking a little shy. "I hope I didn't keep you up too late last night." I was happy to have the company, I promised him, pouring coffee into a cup for him. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I have in weeks," he said. "There's something about this house. It feels peaceful." We ate breakfast together, scrambled eggs and toast. Nothing fancy, but it tasted good. We talked about easy things like the weather and a book we'd both read. But underneath the simple conversation, I could feel that special connection from last night was still there. After breakfast, David helped me wash the dishes. We worked side by side at the sink, and it felt natural and comfortable, like we'd been doing this for years instead of just hours. "I should probably leave soon," he said eventually, though he didn't sound like he wanted to go. "I've bothered you enough." "You haven't bothered me at all," I said. "But I understand if you need to get back to your regular life." He dried his hands on a kitchen towel and turned to look at me. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you think people can really change? Like, completely change who they are?" I thought about his question carefully. I think people can choose different paths. Whether that's changing who they are, or finally becoming who they were meant to be all along. I'm not sure. "Why are you asking?" "Because I want to be different," he said seriously. "I want to stop living the way everyone else thinks I should. But I'm scared that I'll try and fail, and then I'll have given up my safe job for nothing." "That's a real fear," I agreed. "But here's what I've learned. The regret of not trying often hurts more than the regret of trying and failing. At least when you try, you know for sure. You're not left wondering what could have happened." He nodded slowly, thinking about this. "You're right. I know you're right. It's just scary." "Of course it is," I said gently. "All the important things are scary. That's how you know they matter." We went out to the front porch even though it was still cold. We sat in the old rocking chairs that had been there since I bought the house. The morning air was fresh and clean from the rain. "I've made a decision," David said after we'd been quiet for a while. "I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to really try to make furniture for a living, not just as a hobby on weekends. I don't know if it'll work out, but I need to find out." I felt proud of him. "That takes a lot of courage." "You inspired me," he said, looking me in the eyes. "Listening to you talk about your regrets and the dreams you gave up on. I don't want to be sitting somewhere in 30 years having the same conversation with someone else. I want to at least try." "Then you should try," I encouraged him. "And when it gets hard and you doubt yourself, remember this feeling right now. Remember why you started." He smiled, looking hopeful and determined. "I will. I promise." We sat quietly for a while longer, watching the world slowly wake up around us. Birds started singing their morning songs. A neighbor drove past on their way to work. The sun broke through the clouds in patches. Finally, David stood up and stretched. "I really need to go now. But thank you for everything. For opening your door, for listening, for not judging me." "You're welcome here any time," I said, standing up to face him. "Please remember that. You don't need something bad to happen to knock on my door. Come visit just because you want to." "I will," he promised. And I believed him. We hugged quickly, a warm hug that said more than words could say. Then he picked up his backpack, walked to his car, and drove away with one last wave. I stood on the porch long after his car disappeared down the road. I felt the morning sun on my face and breathed in the fresh air. Something had changed inside me during those hours with David. His courage had woken up something I thought I'd lost forever. That night when he knocked on my door looking for help, he'd accidentally given me a gift. He reminded me that it's never too late to go after what matters to you. That connections with other people can happen at any age. That opening yourself up to others, even when it feels uncomfortable, can lead to amazing changes in your life. The days after David's visit went back to normal patterns, but everything felt a little bit different somehow. I found myself looking at my daily routines with fresh eyes, asking myself which activities made me truly happy and which were just habits I'd never questioned. One afternoon, I pulled out the old notebook with the half-finished book I'd given up on years ago. I read through it, surprised to find it wasn't as bad as I'd convinced myself it was. The writing was rough for sure, but there was something there, a spark of something real. I started writing again, just a little bit each day, with no pressure or big expectations. I wrote for myself, not to get published or become famous, but just because creating something felt good. It felt like finding a lost part of myself. 2 weeks after that rainy night, my phone rang. David's name showed up on the screen. "I did it," he said when I answered. His voice was excited and nervous at the same time. "I quit my job. I'm really doing this." "David, that's wonderful," I said, truly happy for him. "How do you feel?" "Terrified," he admitted with a laugh, "but also more alive than I've felt in years. I wanted to thank you again. Our talk gave me the push I needed." "You gave yourself the push," I corrected him gently. "I just listened." "Sometimes that's exactly what someone needs," he said. We talked for almost an hour about his plans, his fears and his hopes. He'd already gotten several people asking him to make furniture for them. He had a business plan written out. He was looking at workshop spaces he could rent. His excitement was contagious. It made me feel excited too. "I'd love to see you again soon," he said before we hung up. "Maybe I could cook you dinner and show you some of my work." "I'd like that very much," I replied. The next weekend, David came over with his arms full of grocery bags. He insisted on cooking dinner to thank me properly for helping him. We cooked together in my small kitchen, working easily side by side, talking and laughing while the smell of garlic and spices filled the house. After dinner, he showed me photos of his furniture projects on his phone. The pieces were beautiful, detailed work that showed both skill and artistic talent. "These are amazing," I said honestly. "You have real talent." "Thanks," he said, clearly pleased. "It's the only thing I've ever done that feels completely right, you know? Like this is what my hands were made for." "I understand that feeling," I said. "Or I'm starting to understand it. I've been writing again." His face lit up like a light bulb. "Really, that's amazing. Can I read some of it?" I hesitated. I hadn't shown my writing to anyone in decades. But looking at his eager, encouraging face, I found myself nodding. "Okay, but remember it's very rough and not finished." I got my notebook and handed it to him. My heart was pounding. He read silently for several minutes, his face focused and serious. When he finally looked up, his eyes were bright. "This is really good," he said. "I mean it. You have a unique way of telling stories. You should definitely keep going with this." His genuine enthusiasm meant more to me than I could put into words. "Thank you. That really means a lot coming from you." As the evening went on, we fell into another deep conversation. This was becoming our pattern. I realized, moving easily from talking about simple things to discussing life and meaning and purpose. Our age difference didn't seem to matter. We connected on a level that went beyond just numbers. "Can I tell you something?" David said at one point, his tone getting more serious. "Always," I said. "That night when I showed up here, I was in a really dark place. I'd been having thoughts about whether life was worth living. Not like I was going to hurt myself, but just wondering what the point was when everything felt meaningless." My heart felt tight in my chest. "I'm okay now," he said quickly. "I really am. But I wanted you to know how important that night was. You literally saved me by opening your door, by listening without judging, by treating me like I mattered. You gave me hope when I had none." Tears filled my eyes. "I'm so glad you came here. So glad you trusted me enough to be honest about how you felt. You made it easy to trust you," he said. "You created a space where I could be real without being afraid. That's a rare gift." We sat quietly for a moment, both thinking about what had been shared. Then David smiled, making the mood lighter. "So basically we're saving each other, right? I give you courage to write. You give me courage to make furniture. We're like mutual inspiration." I laughed, grateful for the lighter tone. "I suppose we are. Not a bad arrangement." "Not bad at all," he agreed. As weeks turned into months, David and I developed a real friendship that was hard to put into a category. We weren't teacher and student, though we learned from each other. We weren't regular friends because of our age difference. We weren't family, though we cared about each other deeply. We were simply two souls who'd found connection at an important moment, and chose to keep it going. He visited regularly, always calling ahead now. Always bringing something, sometimes groceries for dinner. Sometimes a new piece of furniture he wanted to show me. Sometimes just himself and good conversation. I looked forward to these visits. I found myself planning around them, choosing meals I thought he'd enjoy, saving interesting articles or book recommendations to share. My daughter noticed the change in me during one of her visits home. "You seem different, Mom," she said. "Happier, more interested in life." "I've been writing again," I told her. "And I've been spending time with David." "David?" "My old friend David." She looked surprised. "How did that happen?" I explained about the rainy night, the unexpected visit, the friendship that had grown from it. My daughter listened with interest, and I worried briefly that she might think it was weird. But instead she smiled. "That's great, Mom. I always liked David. He's a good person, and I'm glad you have someone to talk to besides me. You deserve good friendship, Her easy acceptance warmed my heart. I realized I'd been a little worried about her reaction, concerned she might find our age gap friendship inappropriate somehow. But she saw it for what it was. Two people connecting genuinely. And that was enough. One fall evening about 6 months after that initial rainy night, David arrived with exciting news. I got my first major job, he announced, barely able to contain his excitement. A complete bedroom set for a client in Boston. Bed frame, 2 knit stands, and a dresser. It's enough money to keep me going for months. David, that's wonderful, I said, truly thrilled for him. You should be so proud of yourself. I am, he said, grinning widely. Proud and terrified and excited all at once. But I wanted to celebrate with you first before I tell anyone else. Because you're the reason I had the courage to try. I'm honored, I said softly. That you're the one who did the work. You're the one with the talent and determination. Yeah. But you believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. That matters more than you know. We celebrated with sparkling apple cider and homemade cake, raising our glasses to new beginnings and the courage to go after what matters. As we sat on the porch later, watching the sunset paint the sky in beautiful shades of orange and purple, I felt a deep happiness settle over me. Can I ask you something? David said thoughtfully. Of course. Do you ever regret the paths you didn't take? The choices you made that led you here, instead of somewhere else? I thought about his question carefully. Sometimes, I admitted. I wonder what life might have been like if I'd pursued writing seriously when I was younger. If I'd made different choices in my marriage. But mostly I've come to accept that every choice led me exactly here. And here isn't so bad. No, he agreed. Here is pretty good. We sat in comfortable silence, both lost in our own thoughts but connected by being together. The air was cool, carrying the smell of fall leaves and distant wood smoke. It was perfect. I've been thinking, David said after a while, about legacy, about what we leave behind. I want my work to matter, not just to be beautiful, but to mean something. To be pieces that people pass down through generations. That's a noble goal, I said. What about you? What do you want your legacy to be? I thought about it. I want my writing to touch people, to help them feel less alone, to show them that change is possible at any age, that it's never too late to become who you're meant to be. You're already doing that, David said quietly. You've certainly done that for me. His words settled into my heart and stayed there. I realized he was right. I was already living my legacy, already making the impact I hoped for. Not through big, dramatic gestures, but through small moments of real connection. As winter approached, our friendship only got stronger. We supported each other through challenges. When David struggled with a difficult customer, I listened and offered perspective. When I faced writer's block and couldn't think of what to write next, he reminded me of my own advice about persistence. We celebrated each other's victories, felt sad together over setbacks and kept that honest, judgment-free space we'd created that first rainy night. One evening as snow fell gently outside, covering the world in white silence, David arrived with a large wrapped object. I made something for you, he said, almost shyly. I unwrapped it carefully to find a beautiful writing desk, small but perfectly sized, with elegant curved legs and a smooth work surface. Hidden compartments and little drawers provided storage, and the wood grain was absolutely gorgeous. David, I breathed, running my hands over the smooth surface. This is beautiful. I wanted you to have a proper place to write, he said. Somewhere special that honors what you're creating. Every artist needs the right workspace. Tears filled my eyes. This is the most thoughtful gift anyone has ever given me. Thank you doesn't feel like enough. You don't need to thank me, he said. You gave me so much more. You gave me myself back. We hugged, a long embrace between true friends, between two people who'd found each other at exactly the right moment and chose to hold on to that connection. The desk became my sacred space. I wrote there every morning, watching the world wake up through the window, my fingers moving across paper or keyboard, creating worlds and characters and stories that felt true. The book I'd abandoned years ago was almost finished now, revised and deepened and transformed into something I was genuinely proud of.